gotta say, after seeing Guardians,
I'm hooked on a feeling. Come and get your love. Come and get your love.
Guardians of the Galaxy has finally arrived. Months and probably a couple years of news and speculation and so on. The Guardians is finally here. This is Marvel's probably most ambitious movie to date. And me, I'm not a big comic book person, but I was very curious about this. I didn't have a lot of faith in it though, but I was pretty curious about it because unlike characters like Spider-Man or Batman or X-Men, Guardians, not too many people know about them. They were more recently created in comic books, like a few years ago. But now everybody should know who they are, obviously, because we have a movie now. The Guardians of the Galaxy tells the story of a band of misfits, Star-Lord or Peter Quill, played by Chris Pratt, Gamora, played by Zoe Saldana. Okay, don't tell Jennifer I did that, okay? Please don't. Rocket Raccoon, voiced by Bradley Cooper, which the fact that Bradley Cooper is part of this franchise just makes him all the more awesome. Groot, played by Vin Diesel, and Drax, played by Dave Bautista, I believe. And you also got a few familiar faces in here. John C. Reilly, Glenn Close, and I don't know the actor's name, but he plays the Elven King in The Hobbit: Desolation of Smaug. The Guardians of the Galaxy basically gather on a quest against Ronan, who is after this orb, essentially, of some kind, and he wants to just wipe out this Nova Prime planet or whatever. And obviously these group of misfits, they don't like each other, but they have to overcome their prejudice towards each other, much like the Avengers, in order to stop this threat from happening. Now, I have to say, I mean, so far, we've had a pretty good year for comic book movies. And movies in general, I would say. Captain America, awesome. X-Men, excellent. And the other one I'm not even going to mention because it does not deserve to be, even though I love Spider-Man. This one, I gotta say, it was so much fun. I loved the heck out of Guardians of the Galaxy. One of the most self-aware movies I've ever seen in my life. And this big leap of faith that Marvel took, my God, did they pull it off. Chris Pratt is hilarious as Star-Lord. He's like Luke Skywalker and Han Solo combined. He's got that arrogance and all he cares about is money attitude. But he's got that part of him that wants adventure, much like Luke Skywalker did in Star Wars. And you do feel for the guy because he has a kind of an emotional backstory, which I don't want to go too deep into in case you haven't seen the movie. Gamora, played by Zoe Saldana, is a badass. And she has a pretty good background to her as well. She has a connection to Thanos, which, by the way, he's in this movie, only for a brief amount of time, played by the one and only Josh Brolin, who is, I'll say, unrecognizable. I'll just put it that way. Dave Bautista as Drax is pretty cool. He's pretty intimidating, and I would not want to get that guy mad. Vin Diesel as Groot is awesome. He just oozes awesome, and all he says, I am Groot. He's like the Chewbacca of this group. Like, he's the tall, odd-looking guy in the room, but he's the kind of guy that you just want to give a hug to. And the best scene stealer of the entire movie, Rocket the Raccoon by Bradley Cooper. He was hilarious. I loved Rocket, and Bradley Cooper's hilarious. I'm going to remember him forever. I mean, and he had one of the thickest New York accents I've ever heard. He sounded like a character from The Sopranos. I'm sorry, I'm kind of gushing a little bit because this movie is so much fun. I mean, you can probably say that I'm giving it too high of a rating or something because it's a Marvel movie, but no. This is actually a really fun movie and probably one of the biggest attempts by Marvel I've ever seen. And I gotta give Marvel credit because if another studio had their hands on this, it probably wouldn't have been as good as it did. The humor, oh my God, it sometimes overrides itself that it actually feels like a comedy. Some people might have problems with the humor considering that it's Marvel. It's like, oh, it's too cheesy. Shut up. Just shut up. The visuals look really good. It got a nice fluidity to it. It almost is like Star Wars and Star Trek combined. And the musical choices in here, where it's just like, what? I mean, I don't know how to describe it, but certain musical choices really work in this movie. It's a lot of 80s and 70s or so on, because Star-Lord's got a lot of cassette tapes that he plays on his ship. If you're into 80s music, you'll like the soundtrack. And the visual effects, of course, look really, really nice. And it adds to that nice feel of space, like that epic tone you get, which is like a Star Wars thing, and then you also got the nice clean look like Star Trek. The only thing that I didn't really care for was the villain, unfortunately, Ronan. Not that he was bad or anything, he wasn't a terrible villain, but I just didn't really buy him as a villain. I just found him something like taking over the world type of thing. But, regardless, he was a fine villain. He was passable. Well done to the cast and crew and to the production team. James Gunn, who I read was part of movie 43, which I have not seen purposely. I heard it was one of the worst movies ever made. Gotta give credit to Marvel. They pull these random choices out of the hat, and sometimes you just get, whoa, that was cool. Well done, guys. Well done. So for any of you who have seen Guardians of the Galaxy, comment below, tell me what you think of Guardians, and are you excited for the sequel? Because I know I am. See you next time, guys.
I'm hooked on a